So just make sure you are muted, otherwise thank you. All right. So we'll start with a reflection. So thank you for those who joined on YouTube for Soul Cafe. As usual, we'll start with a reflection to start this session. Take that time to slow down. Sometimes there is that dedicated time. Perhaps I have a break. Perhaps I'm on vacation. Or maybe just a very small sliver of time. What do I do in that pause, during that break, during that vacation? Do I check in to see how I am feeling? The world right now, so many events, so much uncertainty, so much busyness through the day. It may even seem like there's no time to check inside. But just like any large machinery, before it is being used, before it is to be operated, for it to carry out its function, one tends to check it is working properly. Before one uses it to carry on a task. There is the machinery of my entire life. And I am constantly making decisions in the day. And I only have a certain amount of energy. Operate through the day. Do I want to drain my energy? Do I want to conserve my energy? Do I know how to recharge? Or is there a leak in the gas tank? And it doesn't matter if I try to fill up. I'll always feel like there's not enough. Let's pause. It is about checking how I'm feeling. But it is also learning to recharge. Just as a car needs gasoline, if a long journey is expected ahead, There's so much energy that I use. And this is why there is peacelessness in the day, frustration, expectations, dissatisfaction. If I don't really fill up, I am losing that energy. So how is my inner world like right now? A state of stability and lightness. How content am I? What if I were to know the real me? Know what truly fills me, so that my spiritual gas tank never goes empty. Om Shanti. So today's session is story time. I don't know if it's really been a month since we've had story time, but time is flying by. And so this is actually a very well-known story. And the theme really is about this aspect of fullness, contentment versus, this sense of dissatisfaction, and to be able to see its impact and to even sense when that might be something I'm feeling inside. So this is a well-known story, as mentioned. Souls may have heard of this. It's about King Midas. Has everyone heard of the Midas Touch? Have you ever heard that? Yeah. So it's actually now, I think it's like some sort of a mechanic shop now too. They call it the Midas Touch. And so let's hear this story. For those of you who've heard, perhaps you will enjoy to hear it again. So long ago, there was a king whose name was Midas. He was extremely rich, but not at all content, as he still wanted more. Obsessed with accumulating gold, he thought that the more he had, the happier he would be. One day while dreaming, he woke up with a startle to find a fairy standing in front of him. He got up from his bed, fell at the feet of the fairy and said, "What beautiful fairy you are." Then suddenly realizing how he might turn this visit to his own advantage, he slyly added, "I have heard that beautiful fairies like you often grant people wishes." So back to his greedy habit again. The fairy laughed loudly. "Oh, King Midas, tell me your wish, and I'll grant it to you." Overwhelmed at the prospect of such good fortune, the king was surprised and unable to speak. "Tell me, Midas," the fairy asked again, "what do you want?" The king's lips trembled in joyful anticipation. He shouted, "Oh, fairy, grant me the power to turn everything I touch into gold." Once his wish was granted, the king did not know what to do with himself. He paced up and down, looking at his hands. He said to himself, "I have the great powers now, and with the help of these hands, I will accumulate so much gold." Slowly, he moved towards a stone lying in front of him. He held his hands near the stone, saying, "Let me touch it and see what happens." The king touched the stone, and it did indeed turn into gold. He jumped for joy. For some time, He continued to gaze at it in wonder, and then seeing a beautiful rose, he touched it, whereupon it also turned into shining gold. The king grew quite excited. He ran to the garden, touching many flowers and plants. How wonderful! Everything I have touched has turned into gold. I shall be the richest king in the whole world. What a lucky man I am. After some time, King Midas began to feel hungry. He called his servant and said, "Bring me food and drink." The servant brought a bowl of fruit and other delicacies. He also brought a jug of water. The king wanted to eat a piece of fruit, but when he picked it up, it turned into gold. He wanted to drink the water, but alas, he could not, because the moment he touched the jug, it turned into gold. The king sank back in his seat and cried out, "Oh, what a fool I've been. I am hungry, but I'm not able to eat anything. I am thirsty, I'm not able to drink anything. What a disaster. This will be the death of me." At that moment, his daughter came into the room. Seeing her father sitting in such a sorrowful mood, she came running up to him and said, "Oh, father, what is wrong with you? Why are you so sad?" "Oh, my child," cried Midas. Suddenly, his hand touched her, changing her instantly into a golden statue. Seeing this, the king broke down and wept. "Now I cannot even talk to my daughter. What have I done? She has turned into a statue." His sorrow knew no bounds. At that point, the fairy appeared in front of him. "O king," she said, "you should be very happy, but I find you crying. Why? Are you not satisfied with your powers to turn everything into gold?" The king fell at her feet. "Please do not mock me. I do not want this power anymore. Please take it away. I want my daughter to come back to life again. Be assured that I will not ask for such a boon again. Never again will I be so greedy. I have enough gold. I will use this gold to help the poor and needy." The fairy then took away from King Midas the power of the golden touch, bringing his daughter instantly back to life. The king was very happy. From that moment on, he was forever freed from his insatiable greed. So I'm sure there's also very many different variations of that story as well. But basically, the essence of it is there really going to be enough? And this is where it becomes more of a spiritual aspect. And it's interesting because I knew someone whose house was broken into many years ago. And so, yeah, many things in their house were stolen. And they ended up having to replace their television. And so I remember asking them a couple of months later and says, "So how is everything? Are you enjoying your new television?" Because it was twice the size. She says, "No, I'm not actually. Now I have to worry about this television being stolen from me." And it was interesting. It stayed with me so much, what she shared, because sometimes we feel that the more we have, the more actually you're worried about things happening. And if you can start to look inside yourself and see patterns, why do we do so much through the day? Why do we have to keep ourselves so busy? And sometimes it kind of takes a breaking point to start to realize, is it really about getting more things, being more productive in the day? Or is there something else that seems to be missing inside? And so in this the study of Raja Yoga, there is a very invaluable capacity that we are learning to use, which is about being a detached observer and about being able to observe yourself, seeing habits, seeing your thought patterns, being able to see without judging yourself. And that's probably one of the biggest challenges that individuals have, is trying to observe what's going on inside without judging themselves. And so this is where the aspect, which is the cornerstone of Raj Yoga, is soul consciousness. And soul consciousness, even personally for me, I have discovered, is not just about thinking about spirituality. It's not about just thinking that I am a spirit. When we say it's the consciousness of being a soul, it's actually feeling what that experience is like. And for all of us, as we go through the day, we have many different roles and hats that we wear. And even in the packaged costume that we're in, there are some who are not, they don't identify with that at all. And some of them who do. But it comes to a point where those roles that we play, and for some who've accepted this image, this package, the gender, the age, the culture, the ethnicity, all of that, it actually just sits in this background awareness and really colors how they see things through the day. But because of that, it always is the lens in which you see through, with which to be able to feel that you can make progress in the day, to make connection, to feel that you're making a contribution, that there's insight, that there is meaningfulness. But is all of this, these roles and identities, are they really going to fulfill what I need? So this aspect of Raja Yoga is a study about actually being a soul. And not for it to be intellectual, but to really actually check in with myself, reflect, but realize as well, what is really going to fill me? And to be able to go into that experience where there's such a level of freedom that I am not defined by physicality. I'm not defined at all by all the temporary things. And so just reflecting for yourself, and if you feel comfortable to share, if we're just talking about just our day-to-day situation, putting aside spirituality for now, it's sometimes hard to separate it because our day-to-day lives, especially for those who have been, on their own spiritual journey, have noticed that you can't really separate, in a sense, physicality, physical examples, and spirituality. But just thinking about your own personal day, do you find that you have certain expectations? Or do you find that feels like you need to stay busy through the day? And what do you feel is driving that? Just for yourself, what do you feel is driving that? Because sometimes many don't even realize what's going on. And until we start to discover for ourselves, it's not really going to be meaningful. So I'll give you a chance to think about that. And this is why it's actually quite useful to make it very relevant for yourself. Just something to even bring to perspective for yourself. I don't know how many individuals I know. So, I wish I had a break. I wish I had a break. Then I'll be able to do this and do this and do that. And by the time they actually have time, they don't really want to do what they thought that they wanted to do. That, there's this, and then so it's interesting. What's going on inside of us? There's a lot of undercurrents. Yes, Emma, I think that you have unmuted yourself.
Yeah, so I was just reflecting what you're sharing and asking. So one thing, in many years, I don't have a vacation. I did not take vacation because I don't feel like I need a break. As you said, that I don't need a break. I mean, I'm pretty contented with what I'm doing and the situations and all, and never get frustrated to an extent that, oh, I need a break. I need to take a vacation, I need to stay home, like without doing anything and all. So that's one thing. Second thing, yes, I like to be busy during the day. Busy meaning like not crazy busy, but manageable busy. Uh, because at workplace as well, I like to have one thing after another. I really don't like to look for work. I
Mm,
always feel like the work should be waiting for me, meaning like I have to finish this one, I have to finish, I have something to do. And that is because that way the time can pass. I mean, time goes faster, right? If you don't have anything to do, then, and because if you don't have to do anything, we are not a type of person like who go around and chat and all. I mean, we really like to make most of the time I'm getting paid for. And that's why I always like to keep myself busy. If absolutely no work, but I always try to find work for myself. So this is my experience actually.
mm. So what happens when you are busy? What kind of thoughts and feelings come up inside?
So sometimes I feel like, I mean, I'm getting paid hourly. And
Mm,
if
mhm.
I'm not doing anything, so um, it's very subtle, right? Because I feel like, but I mean, I'm getting paid 8 hours and I did not work 8 hours. Like, and I'm not saying that in normal course I'm working 8 hours completely, but at least like you are meaningfully busy for at least 4 hours in a day. But if that's not the case, I feel that no, I mean, that's not very genuine income, right? Because I mean, I should not be claiming, and I still need money to run my home, right? Bigger house, otherwise I cannot. So I don't know. I mean, how to analyze that? Why it's like that? Because I don't know. Everybody would feel the same, but particularly me.
I guess there are a couple things that could just be just sheer principle that, I'm being paid 8 hours, so I should actually, honor that and be working during that time, right? But it's interesting what you're sharing, and I'm not saying that this is your case as well,
Mhm.
is that that many might feel that they need to be useful, right? Let's say if you were a volunteer, right? I'm sure, but there's another piece is that staying busy is good. I wish I could actually repeat this phrase that I've heard, but an idle mind is like a devil's,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
It's an opportunity for just lots of waste and negativity and to come around. So being busy isn't a bad thing, but one thing is about what does it mean to be productive, right?
Mhm.
It's because I feel that it's fair to say, well, I'm being paid 8 hours. I should definitely, not be wasting, the company's time. They trust me, right? But what I find interesting beyond what you're sharing as well is just in general is how about individuals who are taking care of the family at home? They have children. They're not being paid, right? In that traditional way. But
Yeah, I
if we
agree.
didn't have these individuals, they would, like households would not survive. A generation of individuals, a generation of the youth would not really actually be possible. But we do tend to have certain ideas of what success means, right? And so what you share is very fair. What if it was like on your time off, right? If you were at home and like, would you give yourself that time to take a break? Like if it was the weekend, and if you, so these are more
Okay,
good
yeah.
questions.
No, that no weekends they are different, right? I like to have my own time. I
Mhm.
like to do certain things, like especially some of the classes I like to, or like I like to do certain practices, right? But during the weekend, that's not the case. Like I like to be busy. No, 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 not at all. I
Mhm.
rather like to have a time for myself. If I can avoid certain thing that okay, it can wait, but I have some bhatti and I have to do bhatti, and I like to do that, right? Because that's a priority for me. Uh, And having said that, I mean, yeah, I mean, as you know, like I'm taking care of my two parents and all. They are my priority for sure. But
Mhm.
um, like, no, I really don't feel like keeping myself busy. No, I can be uh, I can be without doing anything and still I can be happy. I really don't have to keep myself busy to be happy. No, it's just the work. And I sometimes feel weird as well. Like, why my consciousness change when I'm working? Like, oh my God, I don't have enough work. So then I start looking for something here and there and all. But like, no, at home, weekends and non-weekends and all, I really don't have to be busy. I am pretty happy not doing many things around. No. Yeah.
Sure. It's interesting because one of the things in terms of just watching the self is that, yeah, it definitely can be quite subtle.
Mhm.
Do I ever, and this isn't ever about feeling bad or judging the self, but especially for those who are in this study, you start to see how subtle some of the things
Mhm.
are inside, right? Is there any sense of dissatisfaction? Does it look like I'm trying to help, but it's really more that I just want to do it myself because I don't trust people to do it? It's quite subtle, in terms of what discontentment can look like. And we were sharing this morning about one of the very senior students in the study who had just passed away a year ago, since Friday. And she had such a level of contentment about her, and that you could feel it. There was just this. She never spoke much, right? This is Daddy Gulzar, but I was so touched because there was a celebration of her life, the first year anniversary that was happening Thursday night for Calgary, but Friday morning for India in the spiritual campus. But I was so moved to see how many souls were touched by her life, just by her impact. And yet she didn't do a lot, and like she didn't give a lot of classes, but she had a vibration about her that was completely filled with contentment. And one of the things is that they have created this memorial of her, and it's a tower. And there's inscriptions on the tower. And one of the inscriptions on the tower is about self-respect. And when I heard about this soul who was very quiet, um, that one of the inscriptions was self-respect, it really touched me because I feel that our ideas of self-respect, is actually perhaps maybe not as deep as the understanding of what self-respect is. And it's very much connected to her level of contentment. She was just completely full. She had no expectations for others. And yet just individuals were so cooperative with her and inspired them also to feel this contentment within themselves. And that, in fact, there was so much more harmony and cooperation in her presence. And yet she wasn't doing anything. It was all very invisible. And it really actually, it was, at least for me, was reflecting a lot on, what can subtle forms of discontentment look like? But beyond that was really, I was feeling about the quality of that experience of being the soul, and how much the quality of that, how real that needs to feel so that it really is a restoration of my true identity, where I deeply feel there's nothing here that defines me, like to actually go there to that feeling where I am not, you know, tacked on, attached to anything, and yet I am so full. And it really feels like the quality of that aspect of the study is directly connected to my level of contentment. And so it's interesting because it's very good. And I'm very inspired actually looking at students in the study and how much everyone is inspired to look at themselves, that even if things happen, even if reactions happen, souls just feel very inspired to look at themselves, and that only inspires me to keep looking at myself and seeing how I can change. Mhm. But this aspect of discontentment, and it's this is a silly example, but it stayed with me, was actually I know someone who is a toddler, and so a bulk of her time growing up in these 2 years is as a toddler during the pandemic. And so she really didn't have a chance to spend a lot of time with other children, right? So she's in her house and she has all the toys in the world, right? And so doesn't really have a chance to learn about sharing with other kids, right? And so when, there are times when they do have like close family friends who are permitted to come over and they have children. And there was one time when they came over and she's friends with them, she knows them, but she's never had that chance to actually share. So when they started playing with her toy, she was like, she was just like, so like, oh, don't touch that. Don't, but it was like a toddler. And all I could think about was like, I wonder what's going on through that soul's mind and what's going on in their heart. It's not really about toys. And this is, of course, a soul in a little body, but what is the journey of the soul that we may look at on the outside, superficially, the kinds of choices that we make. But this study about Raja Yoga is about this really gentle, deep spiritual surgery. And that we know that we can see what's happening in the world today. So much is happening in the world today. And that there's actually, in fact, so much discontentment that souls are feeling. And that it's really coloring their day-to-day choices. And if you have a mass population of individuals all over the world who are discontent, it doesn't equate to a very good capacity for all of us to unite together. So, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I know like discontentment, and it has a lot to do with the story which you have started with. That's the greed, right? Because we want more and more and more. Like if I'm doing good job, and then if people are appreciating, I want them to appreciate more and more. And it's a very deep, subtle greed.
Yeah.
It's very, for even lust as well, like for all four major vices, the very fundamental vice, that's even sometimes it feels like more than lust, it's a greed. Even lust, like you want to feel more valuable. I am attached to something because it's more and more and more, right? So it's all greed, all the vices are revolving around greed actually. If we look into that very deeply, everything, it's a greed is the biggest enemy of ours, like, because we want more and more and more, and that becomes our habit. That becomes our conditioning, right? That we want everything more from everywhere.
Yeah, it's interesting because I remember asking that question a long time ago, and perhaps maybe we call it desire. If you call it lust, it's desire. And that why is there a desire, right? Why is there this feeling that I need more and more? And just when you're sharing, I was really thinking about this aspect of matter, matter. It's ironic that word means physical matter, but it also means value, what matters, right? It's quite ironic. And when the soul, don't feel value, and I think I'm not sure when we shared this, but I think it may have been last Soul Cafe. But how long can someone go without water, to be able to have food? And we talk about value. And if we were really honest with ourselves, we actually can't go without that for even a second. It's not about, it's about what that experience feels like, that experience that that someone has regard for me, the feeling that I can contribute, that I have a voice, that what I think actually makes a difference. that, and then we talked about this last time too, like there's so many variations of that, but it's the feeling that matters the most, right? No matter what the variations are, it's very universal. But the thing is that when it comes to when I think that I'm the image, you can fill up in all these different ways, even approval from others, even achievements, but you'll always feel like you're not satisfied because you, the soul, are not really getting the value that you're seeking for. And the only reason why you're seeking is because you must be lacking it. You must not be able to access that experience. And so, yes, we can fill up with all these things, and there'll only be a certain amount of time when it's like, it's not enough. And no one can ever really fulfill your expectations. We might seem like it, right? And it can go on for a long, long time. And I feel that's why, this aspect of being able to watch yourself to be a detached observer is huge for one part of it, to see what's going on so that you're not deceived. But the second part is that I need to have a solution. It's not enough just to see, oh, this is what's going on inside. I need the solution, which is really that I, soul, need to fill up. Like that's the truest way to heal, so that there is no longer that need to seek. And so I know someone who actually has a mental illness. And long story short, there has been, lots of experiences of greed in her life, growing up with her, just with the siblings and her mother. And so, she doesn't act appropriately. She doesn't behave appropriately because of the greed and also the mental illness. But when I look at this soul, like I can really feel this soul just wants love, right? If this soul can really feel love, like it would really be that's the only solution. Like this, like no matter what the soul is having to do, it has nothing to do with our actions. It might look like it. And it's like looking at all of us and, all over the world, it's the same case. To be able to look at ourselves, that is such a great mercy to look at yourself and to not judge, to be able to have that objectivity. Mm-hmm. Yes.
I was just reflecting about the story that you just shared, which I kind of relate to the working environment I'm currently in. So it's an industry which provide, the best physical, like cosmetic surgery and aesthetic surgery. So there's clients who are very rich, and all they have to do is just spend the money to really, I would say, upgrade the physical features. And I bumped into one of the soul, and actually I was so, amazed how the beauty and, the fascination of the science that has made her, because she looks perfect. And then she started to cry because she say that she doesn't look good. She's not looking pretty. So she want more surgery. And to make it short anyway, so it's a world of, like trying to, to pretend into something, that so specifically for the souls who wants to be more accepted by the husbands who are very rich. And it's just that self-respect part is being lost because of the physical image. That's how they base their sense of value. And they go to their friends and so the same thing too. And then there's no contentment, and that dependency on the physicality, especially the image, the more you seek and, be greedy about being beautiful, being perfect, the more you feel empty within. So you mentioned about that spiritual gas tank. It's very low.
Yeah.
Because everything is dependent on the physical.
Mhm.
I myself used to be a client. So yeah, I felt like I need more. I need more things to be done to make my physical image perfect and to get appreciated. But it doesn't really mix any satisfaction with me because I feel more empty.
Yeah.
And our topic today is fullness and contentment. What
Mhm.
I've learned is being simple makes me more content and fulfill. And that spiritual gas tank is very important, where we really connect to the non-material, to the value of who we really are. And that's what I experienced when I started this study. And at the moment, I'm still really tempted because I decided, and it's just a pull for me to not color my hair. I've colored my hair for 35 years. And now people were shocked, oh, Pauline, you have gray hair. You look old, you know? And again, that physical image, there's some part of my ego that says, oh my gosh, I look at myself. Yeah, I have so much gray hair. But again, you know, with that connection with who you really are, that does really satisfy me. And then if I color my hair and then after a few months it's like continuous of, you know, pretending. I called it like the mask of, you know, ego, the mask of image, in order to protect myself, because, you know, the insecurities and, you know, those low self-respect is not there. So it's very challenging in the workplace where I'm now, but you know, I mean, it's a journey, and it's very important for me to recognize that, so I can connect to myself and what really matters and what really feels, you know, me, you know, in a way that fullness and contentment and simplicity is always there.
Mhm. You know, when you were sharing, I was thinking about, you know, this one very important direction we get in this study, which is to remember God, right? And I was thinking so much about this yesterday, was that I need to conquer desires, right? I need to be able to let go of desires. But what was really lovely listening to the class was that conquer desires, but firstly, remember God. Then you are able to actually let go of all that is trapping you. Reason why is because it's actually very connected to soul consciousness, right? Because remember, it's basically remember the Father, but he is the parent of all souls, but it's about the attainments. In terms of remembering him, it's about that relationship of what he is like is what I am like. He is the parent of all souls, the quality of the kind of soul that he is like. And he has to teach me that actually that's what you're like, but you don't feel it, you don't believe it, you don't think you deserve it. It takes time to actually accept that you're a soul. It takes time to actually feel that you are a soul. It takes time for you to actually say, hey, this is, it's not even just more about deserving. This is actually just who I am. I just completely forgot. And it was really feeling that I need to gently start to learn to feel that, so that there is that capacity for there to be comfortable with simplicity, right? Because I think that I know that for many, spirituality has a reputation of being all about renunciation, about letting things go, and about, you know, just running away and being irrelevant, that spirituality is irrelevant. And today's class was really powerful because it was really about understanding inside yourself. You may not realize that you have habits, and this is not you, Pauline, but this is habits we have, and we're gently all letting them go. And just what you're sharing was reminding about, so like, what does that look like inside of me, in terms of you can't let go until you felt the truth of who you are, like, you know, a drop of it, and a drop, and another drop, and another drop, so that the more you feel who you are, the more you can let go. And more you do, as you were sharing, you crave simplicity, because it's because you become more comfortable with yourself, that you feel like, I don't need all these add-ons. It's just like, you know, cell phones now, you need one more app. It's like, I'm not sure, it was like Samsung 23 now. I don't know what model it is, but it's like the bigger and the better and the faster and the fancier. And it's fine. Souls need to do what they need to do, but for each soul, they will come to a point in their own life, their timing, when they're like, whoa, this is not enough, right? And I know that both of you have shared that in today's sharing or previous sharings, where it's like, and I've heard that so many times, where souls like, okay, I am reaching some endpoint where I can really feel that whatever I'm doing is just not filling me anymore. And it's a cry within yourself. It's like saying, because you're not even knowing it, it's because me, the soul, am not being satisfied. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes without remembering him, if you are trying to disconnect with certain thing, sometimes it could be other extreme as well, right? Because I mean, as you were saying, that we really have to connect to root, the seed. If I'm disconnected with the seed, and if I'm trying to do things outside, because we have seen so many saints and all, and they were doing so many things, right? Because they know that it's not good, right? To have a greed, it's not good. But whatever they are doing, renunciation, that's another extreme, right? So, I'm just watching myself that I'm not living on the other side, other extreme, just to maintain a balance. And to maintain a balance, as you said, it's very important to connect to seed first, and then decide and discern that, okay, this is what is good, this is not, that is not good.
And it definitely takes a journey, because we've been on both extremes in previous births. Yes, Pauline.
My relationship with God was before, like, yeah, I know God, but how much do you know about God? I think most of us know about God, but understanding and experiencing the relationship is also very important, because when you say knowing, it just go in the intellect. But when you have that connection, your understanding, oh, this is my father, my mother, my best friend. So, and he don't undergo any birth or rebirth. He is perfect. So when he's perfect, he wants us to be like him. So that capacity to, or power to understand and experience, the relationship with God, that gives me so much power and link to him, and the capacity to really overcome all the struggles, about our image of ourselves. And then once we link and we know, we experience that pure relationship with him, that fullness and contentment will emerge, and that comes from the unlimited love from him. That's why we called him the ocean of love, which never runs dry. I always say that.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting you're sharing, because I remember the other evening I was just having this experience of just how pure his vibration is. And at that moment, it felt like love. It felt like, and I was like, wow. And it's, this is the thing about this journey, is that you're not trying to intellectually make connections. It's just that you're actually feeling. And that when you feel something real, it changes your past experiences of what you felt before, is really what it feels like. You can change your dictionary as much as you want, but ultimately it's your feeling. It is your real life experience of who you are, and your real life relationship with your spiritual parent, that really is going to change everything. Lately I've been thinking so much about, touching reality, experiencing reality, and how subtle it is, in terms of what you were mentioning about him as well, that it's the seed matters the most, and how much patience we need for ourselves to know that sometimes we're off, that we don't do it accurately. We're not trying to, where we want to be able to access that true experience of being a soul, and that real healthy relationship with our spiritual parent. But we've done so many things in our previous births to be able to have such patience for ourselves. You can afford to have patience for others when you've gone through it, and you've had to, be patient with yourself, and you can say, okay, now I know where that soul is coming from, right? Then you can afford to. And I do notice is that sometimes when we have such high standards for ourselves and we are not good to ourselves, that comes out as well in terms of how we see others, for sure. Mhm. Yeah, so, but the final thoughts I was just really reflecting on was this aspect of contentment, right? And to really take the time to experience that. And what happens when you really feel that the vibration, it actually, emanates for others as well. And I remember this is very early on in my study, and I was actually in Edmonton, and I was in nursing school. And I remember this one classmate, she just shared this comment, where she said, I just feel that I can be completely comfortable in your company. And it was something that both of you had shared was making me think about that, like that inspires me, to, and I'm sure inspires everyone, like, to be able to have that kind of vibration. Because right now, souls feel like they feel very empty, they feel very uncertain, and souls don't want to be needy. That's not our true nature. And to be able to have that kind of contentment inside for ourselves, and so naturally the impact that has on others. Right? This then connects to this aspect of law of karma, because then there's unity, in terms of interactions. You're planting very important sustainable seeds, whereas everything we try to do and fix when it comes from a place of fear and discontentment, it will not actually be sustainable anyway. So any final thoughts before we have a little reflection? I see two very contented faces right now. So super okay. Deep within us, every soul in the world, is that feeling, a need for that feeling of satisfaction. And so I start to look at myself. And I start to feel how deep that satisfaction needs to be. And I appreciate when I have moments in the day where I see I am discontent. That it just inspires me that I want to get the seed right. It will set me free to truly feel that experience of being a soul. That it's not my soul, but I am the soul, to feel that for real. That I truly am distinct from this body. To feel that I'm not defined by anything temporary. That fullness, that lightness. Big part of this journey is actually about being open to accept that I am a soul. Not to try to be a soul, but it's about accepting that I am a soul. Most of the journey is about that. Because when I accept that I'm a soul, all these capacities within me, they reemerge. It is when there is doubt. Doubt suppresses all that I am. Feel I am this being of light. Not to prove to others, not even to prove to myself, but because it feels so satisfying. This world of lightness and calm, even while I'm in the body. Touch that feeling meaningfully now and again. And let that feeling drive how I operate through the day. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your lovely insights and sharings. That's actually just as invaluable. Take care.
Thank you, Om Shanti.
Bye-bye.